Hello, guys. How are y'all? Guess it's back. We're back. We're back. Some of you guys are already back in school, right? You were definitely back in school. I know. I can't believe you guys start so early. It is insane. Insane. Tell your friends, tell all of your friends. We're back. We're on. We're back. Hello. We are just, we've notified everybody that you're live. Hello. It's so tiny. I wish they could have, like, the cell phone. Did you hear that? The cell phone could come in a 72-point font. Wouldn't that be? Hey, y'all. Charleston, South Carolina. Is it cold there? It's cold here today. It's like 50, which is like, we should close the state. It's so, yeah, school starts tomorrow. Does school start tomorrow for you guys? Or the teachers are already back tomorrow? 50, that's too cold. Hey, Gina. Slidell, Louisiana. That is, you can get a lot of trouble in Slidell. Oh, thank you, Debbie. That's so nice. Georgia. We were talking about Georgia today. We were talking about Cobb County. Y'all, Cobb County, they need help. Texas. The great Mary. How are you, Mary? How's Ev? Yeah, so if you guys will just put in, like, where you're from, what the temperature is. I'm waiting for my grown-up leaders to send me the link. Yes, I know. It was last Tuesday. Where was I? I was with Mickey Mouse. With Mickey Mouse. Of course, I went to Disney World for 4 days, and guess what it did for those 4 days? Say it with me. It rained. It rained. So I was on a roller coaster. Ooh, 30 degrees. I was on a roller coaster with a processing cap on my head. Because you know what? I'm not going to mess up my blowout. Yeah. Joshua, Texas. I don't even know where that is. It's such a good first day. To Chicago. It's 29. Oh, my Lord. 26 in Maine. No, ma'am. Dallas, it's 48 and raining. That's code. Very code. Are you guys ready to get back to school? I know you missed your kids. Arkansas is 37. What is that about? Yeah. Anytime it's below 60, I feel like we should close the state. Like, people should stay home. If it ever freezes in Houston, in the Houston area, you can't buy any bread. There's no water. Like, there's no groceries available. I resigned today. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can I elaborate on OT services from earlier? I don't know. What did I say about the OT services? Remind me what I said. What did I say about OT services? Somebody asked me about, somebody today asked me about what is OT in an educational setting. OT in an educational setting is going to be for fine motor, right? How you hold that instrument, or it's going to be in sensory. It's different than a clinical model. Whereas if you did AT, that would be in written expression, 35 degrees in Connecticut. About receiving OT services even though they don't qualify. So here's the thing. Evaluators, the multidisciplinary team does criterion-based evaluations, whether that's formal or informal. And then based on their evaluation, they make a recommendation based on the information that they have, whether or not they believe they need services, consult, direct, or none of the above. But the good thing is everything is a committee decision. So we might have a different view, we might have different input, and those are not exclusive decisions made by the evaluators. Otherwise, if we did that, we could just have evaluators send everybody an email going, "You ain't getting nothing." So I guess it's just Christine. Y'all are all muted. So my friends are logging on. Yes, we did change the background. Have y'all noticed? The background has changed. I've changed it to whitewashed wood. Can we talk about these? Tell me, is that not the cutest little owl you've ever seen? Whoo! And there's two of them. They're looking down on people that make bad decisions in an IEP meeting. So my husband's like, that's so ridiculous. I'm like, you have to change the background. All right, so I'm early. I'm making the kids crazy. Yes, I'm making Christina crazy. Fort Worth. Yeah. So everything is a committee decision. I've had kids that were found ineligible by all the multidisciplinary team members, and after we worked through and talked through the criteria, then we found them eligible. So here's the good news: in 300.111D, it says in the federal code that a student doesn't even have to have a name of an eligibility, as long as we decide that that student is in need of special education and related services. So, the federal government actually gave schools and school-based members and all the committee members great liberty, so we wouldn't get stuck in these goofy conversations that we get stuck in sometimes. So, I'm ready whenever you kids are ready. If you're ready to be ready, are you ready, Christina?
Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. Are y'all ready for this?
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Can the LEA be changed without parent consent? So maybe we're thinking LRE is my guess.
I think, can the LEA be changed without parent consent? So the LEA is a local education agency representative. So if Bob Smith was your LEA representative and you're having a reconvene, can we change that? Absolutely. Can LRE be changed? So LRE is a consideration made by the committee members. So you can't consider it without all the members being convened. So if that's the question, no.
All right, very good. So, I have a question for Brittany wanting to know how she could email you or somebody on the team regarding her son's new diagnosis for a learning disability.
Sure, so just email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. And also, we still have a few more days left, so if you are a teacher or you know a teacher or you're friends with a teacher, you've ever seen a teacher in public, if you forward them this information, we will send them a code. If they work at a school in any capacity, we're giving them a free month membership to the academy for employees of school districts through next Sunday.
What if you were a recent convert from the school system and you've recently freed yourself?
If you're a convert. Okay, if in the last year you've worked at a school building, we'll take that, a convert. So I feel like we're going to be on the cover of the National Enquirer, which I wouldn't mind that. So.
I know, as long as the lighting's good, right?
As long as the lighting's good. It's really kind of all you need, and a shimmer lipstick.
Yes. Amen to that. What could I do if my son didn't qualify for an SCIA assessment?
SCIA assessment. I don't know what that means. You don't qualify for an assessment, so I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, this is from a teacher.
There is a pen mark on my chin. Thank you so much. Is that on my chin? Thank y'all. Somebody said there was a pen mark on my chin, and there is. Hold on. Thank you. We're gonna address that right now. Okay, thank you. What? That they must have been from the south. Let's powder that. All right, and thank you. Is the pen mark still there? It's sort of still there. It's just so good. This is making my numbers go up. Okay. All right, we're ready. And action.
All right. I work in a level D classroom. I'm not sure what that is. And we are getting students with no IEP. Is that legal?
No. That's a self-contained room. So self-contained room is for students that solely have disabilities.
Okay. All right. And then we got an answer back about what an SCIA is.
Okay.
It's an assessment for a one-on-one aid.
So there's not a normed and standardized assessment for a one-on-one aid. There's an assessment for a level of need, right? And based on that level of need, we decide as a committee and a campus what we have to address that need. So again, for me, when I'm talking about a one-on-one, my criterion is, are you an danger to yourself or others? How long would you need that support? Is that something we can deliver to public school? Or do we need to consider out-of-district placement? But whether you had a specific test or not, it's a conversation that we have. Can the special ed teacher and the general ed teacher together give that student access to the general ed curriculum? And if those two can't do it solely, then you talk about a higher level of support.
Okay, excellent. What's your advice on dealing with divorced parents in an IEP meeting? I have a meeting next week.
Well, I was one of those, and we are lunatics. So, so my ex-husband and I built the Fort Bend County Justice Center. You're welcome. It's tough being divorced, and it's tough being divorced when you have a child with a disability, because that really, changes, probably your parenting together wasn't that good, and now you're parenting at two houses. This is what I say to my clients, and our partners say the same thing. I've had 6 parents in a meeting because there's a new girlfriend, wife, fiance, ex-wife, grandparent, aunt. Listen, we're in a meeting to do one thing: focus on successful student outcomes. That needs to be put aside so that we can do that. I just got subpoenaed actually the other day, which reminds me, Alicia reminded me, I just got subpoenaed for a custody case because the parents can't put aside their egos and focus on the student with a disability, and that, the schools have no interest in playing referee for that.
Exactly. All right. What are the responsibilities of a general education teacher that has no training in special education?
Well, they don't need to have training in special education because they're general education teachers. So their responsibilities are to serve those students in their classroom, whether they're special education students or general education students, to implement their IEP accommodations or 504 accommodations, and if they are an implementer on their IEP goals, to collect data on those goals.
Excellent. Okay. Can I get a bilingual aid for a student who does not speak English? I've asked before and they've said no.
So if the student doesn't speak English, you need to have somebody that can communicate with him with the same efficacy as you communicate with the other students in the room. It's a requirement under ADA. It's a requirement under the Rehabilitation Act of 504, 1973.
Excellent. Okay, mid-classes in Georgia are shutting down and the students are being placed into resource. Is this okay under IDEA?
So if they are to solely have a special education setting and you provide that, it meets the criteria. Is it okay? I don't know, because I don't know what the need is in that different setting. Those are very different settings. So I would, certainly we can put them in another solely educated room with just with disabled peers, but you'd have to have the right support in there.
Absolutely. Can a student with a gifted IEP have accommodations for attention issues?
It's funny that you said that, because tonight's training is about gifted and 2E. So you can be gifted, you can be twice exceptional and have an IEP. You can certainly have accommodations. Just because you have a high cognition doesn't exclude you from needing a 504 and or an IEP.
Yep, exactly. How do I get copies of old IEPs?
So I would email either your IEP lead, your ARD facilitator, or the diagnostician and just say, could I please have this from my child's cumulative folder? If that doesn't work, then certainly do a records request at legal at your school district, county, or city.
Yeah. All right, so one of my students in my self-contained class takes up all of my time. Other parents are mad now.
Correct. Correct, right? So that's a staffing issue, and that is, one of the things that I do when I go into meetings is I talk about what do we say in LRE? Does the student's behavior impede his learning and or the learning of others? A lot of times I have kids in general ed classes and their behavior is impeding the other children in the class because they're not on a 504 and they're not on an IEP, and we've made general ed teachers spend their time special editing them. So that is a staffing issue. Certainly I would recommend that you go to your leadership and ask when they are going to fill that position so that you can properly serve all the children.
Excellent. And then my favorite always when I get these is I was told the first few days when we come back from break.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
We were on a break. Who's seen Friends? We were on a break.
Let me guess, that when you come back from break, you don't have to implement the IEP for a little bit? You just sort of ease into it. No, we don't ease into FAPE. We deliver it. So you're either delivering FAPE or you're denying FAPE. You decide which one. And yes, SLPs qualify for the free month of Special Education Academy. If you work at a school district, you qualify.
Okay. I work with students who have complex needs. We're having a huge issue with staff at schools not allowing my clients to use their devices or have them with them at all times. Is there some wording that you can give me that would help them understand that the students have to have their devices? It's their voice.
Sure. So something that might be easier and visual to understand is if you had a child in your class that uses sign language, they would be using that all day, and there would be somebody else modeling that AAC, that alternative augmentative communication. It's the same thing, and it's going all day long, right? They're signing all day long. You wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm gonna need you to not sign during art." No signing during PE. Oh, so that is their voice. That alternative augmentative communication is their voice. So you wouldn't walk over and put your hand over a child's mouth. So you don't deny a child their right to communicate, and you certainly don't deny them their 10 types of communicative intent.
Perfect. I'm starting a new position this week as a third grade code teacher / resource teacher. I've only ever been a gen ed teacher and just had the students with IEPs or 504s. What would your top 3 tips be for me going into this new position?
My top tip is to say child-centered. Number 2, be realistic. You can't do everything for everybody. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for progress. And my third tip is that whenever you have a need, that you go to somebody in your building that can do one of 2 things: staff a room and make decisions. Waiting for somebody else to come put out a fire is never going to happen. You're going to have to notify leadership that there's a problem, so that gives them an opportunity to rectify the problem.
You're familiar with Angel Sense?
Yeah, I am very familiar with Angel Sense.
Is it possible to have a device such as that be put into the IEP or health plan?
That is a fantastic question. It's not legal. So let's talk about that. So if a child has a cognition below 70, they're probably not aware that they have a recording device on their person, right? Do I have clients that use Angel Sense and send it in their child's backpack to school? Absolutely. Is that any of my business? Absolutely not. Those recordings are not admissible. I certainly understand the position of a parent being afraid for their child that's nonverbal, that can't communicate, but it's certainly not something that we put inside of an IEP, a recording device.
Perfect. Okay, so this next question is about resource and the resource setting. And it seems that it's pretty typical to have resource for math and for reading. Is it not possible to have resource for science and social studies?
So it's absolutely possible. It's just very rare, right? Usually the deficit that presents in science and social studies is because of a deficit in reading or math. I find it usually easier to modify the product, the learner expectation in science and social studies. There's going to be a few schools you're going to have resource in science and social studies. Very rare. If you have it, hallelujah. But you could have resource in any of the 5 core areas, right? Reading, language, arts, math, science, and social studies. Almost always you're just going to have the 2 for math and reading.
This might be a 2-part question, knowing you and how you love this answer, but my child is going through an IEP evaluation, and I don't understand the purpose of RTI for evaluating a specific learning disability. And the school is explaining it in very incomprehensible jargon. Can you tell me if a positive response or improved scores indicates the need for services?
Well, January 11th, 2011. I'm sorry, January 21st, 2011. There's a letter from OSEP, Office of Special Education Programs, that said we cannot use RTI, MTSS, SST, or any of those things to stop special education testing, nor do they eliminate the need for testing and or services. So RTI is meant to be used for a moment, just a moment. It is something that a general ed teacher uses, and they should use to see if we can mitigate the impact of the need. If a child needs special education, they need special education. And so I certainly wouldn't allow a school to tell me that they were going to use RTI to determine whether or not there was a need for special education testing or determine whether or not there was a need for special education services.
Perfect. All right. So, what are the rules about outside observations? I have a nonverbal child who is in Gen Ed with an IEP. They refuse observations by his ABA group and even letting me come and observe. When asked why, they respond with, "He's doing fine," and it's because of FERPA.
So it has nothing to do with FERPA. That's so silly. So if you don't work at a school, you don't have the right to go in the school. That's just the short version. And I certainly understand that. I understand parents wanting to go and observe at school, but that's not where they work. That's not where they live. That's where your child goes to school. So I would ask, what is the need for the observation? If we need somebody to provide a behavioral assist to give input, then ask for a behavioral lead from the district to come in and do that. Ask if you have an outside provider that does IEPs for the district that has a specialty in behavior. But having somebody who is not an employee of the district has no obligation to follow the district requirements, obligations, or privacy. So I certainly understand that. And they're coming from a totally different setting, right? There's 3 different models. There's a medical model, there's a therapeutic model, and then there's the school model, right? That they don't play nice together. So I understand both positions, but the school, district, county, or city has personnel that could come and give appropriate observations to provide supports for the staff members teaching that student.
Perfect. All right. So someone has been watching you and they have notated that they learned to include weekly data collection in goal writing. But the team has noted on a PWN their refusal to collect data weekly. Is there anything else I can do to get them to agree to it next time?
So when are you going to collect data? So there's a requirement under IDEA that we list in the IEP how we're going to progress, monitor, and measure. So you just ain't going to collect data. That's an obligation under IDEA. So I would ask them, what is your measuring and monitoring reporting going to look like? We know that there's an obligation to report commensurate with grades. So that's either 6 weeks or 9 weeks. So you're just going to do it when you feel like it? I don't think so.
Yeah, well, as a general educator, what do I do when the SPED teacher puts that I am responsible for the SDI?
Well, a general education teacher wouldn't be responsible for SDI. The S stands for special. And they're general, which are both amazing, and they're 2 different things. So they're the general education teacher. The special educator is the person that delivers specially designed instruction. So you have to be a special educator to deliver that initially.
Is a district allowed to tell their teachers to not refer students for special education testing who are Hispanic until they are in 3rd grade?
That was about 3 laws you just broke there. That sentence just kept going. No. That requires a full-blown pool noodle to the head. Boom. What?
Well, this question goes on to say, in California, the state frowns upon over-identifying too many Latino kids for IEPs, and the SPED director legally told them no more referrals for testing this year.
No, they didn't tell you that legally. They just manipulated you. There's nobody legally saying that. We refer children. We refer humans. No matter the pigment in their skin, their cultural background, their ethnicity. We refer human children between the ages of 3 and 22 that may be in need of special education and related services. Woo! But we know in the great state of Texas that just a few years ago we got popped by the federal government to the tune of $237 million because we had put a cap on identifying children at 8.5. It's gross, disgusting, and you reap what you sow. So just leave that there.
Do you have any information on getting an ISP for a private school for kindergarten in New Jersey? They do have to provide. Do they have to provide a similar amount of services? My district still doesn't have full day kindergarten and guarantee for all students. If I choose to have him in full day, it'll have to be in a private school.
So you have to be very careful when you give up your procedural rights and safeguards when you don't have a child in public school. So in private school, there's a limit to what the obligation is. There's certainly a requirement that we test, right? But it really is, it's dependent on the special education director in that city, county, or state, what services, if any, are delivered. An ISP, while they're less, you have to quantify it, right? So most states, kindergarten is not a required year. So in Texas, kindergarten is not a requirement. So I would go to state compliance and email them to get the specificity in your state.
Can a school deny my son's ABA therapist from providing services at school during school day?
Yes, they can prevent anybody that's not an employee from coming into the building. So there's no obligation to do that.
Can a teacher file a restraining order against a special education student with an IEP?
I don't know about a restraining order. An adult can file charges against anybody that they want. Will they stick? I don't know. There's just so many parameters around that. It's very important that when you write an IEP document, whether it's a 504 or an IEP, that you capture whether or not you believe the student has the ability to understand the student code of conduct with or without modifications.
All right. Is it possible to get a one-on-one for unstructured time because they get bullied on the playground?
Yeah, a one-on-one has nothing to do with bullying. So a one-on-one is not to keep you from not being bullied. The services, a special education service of a para or a shadow would be because you need that to access the curriculum.
Okay. Regarding entering kindergarten students with no ECSE services in the past, how much data needs to be collected before an FIE is granted?
None. We grant an evaluation because we suspect the child has a disability. Say it with me. None.
Zero.
Or zero. We often call none zero. That's very good, Christina. Look at, it's like dual language right there. None and zero.
Zilch.
Zilch.
Yes. If a student is homeschooled but needs speech services, does the school have to service them?
If the school is, say it again?
If the student is homeschooled but is in need of speech services, does the local school have to service them?
So in need of means that you've done an evaluation and they met eligibility for speech and language services. If the parent is willing to make the student available to the campus at the time, there's a likelihood that they will receive those services for sure.
All right, and then we have someone asking about becoming an advocate in California.
Come on! Is that what I'm supposed to say? Yeah. So, California, you have your own district. You have your own OCR. You guys must be giving it to them just like we are in Texas. So, we have 2-day trainings which are available for you immediately so you can be fantastico. We have Mastermind that's available for those that want to become full-time advocates. But yes, we need to train you so that the 7.5 million children in America that have an IEP get representation, recommendations, and next steps. And the 85 gazillion children that are on a junk 504 get better testing to get services. Oh, thank you. Earrings, Marshalls, $9. Real, fake, diamond, and gold. That's right. If they're going to be real fake, they should be real fake, right?
Yeah. So, what is happening in 38 minutes?
That's really good. In 38 minutes, something will be happening. So we will be in the Great Special Education Academy. I know that you guys are going to join us there. Token Cheesehead, Happy New Year. We are in a series, Important Office of Special Education Program Letters, what they mean. So, our job is to equip you, however you sit at the 504 IEP table, for successful student outcomes.
Perfect. And then the all wonderful AAC device.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do when the teachers say she just doesn't want to use it?
So, if you had a student in your room that used sign language, would you just wait for them to start signing? Or would you be modeling it? Language is modeled. And if it's not a requirement, why would that student use their AAC device? I want to address a question that's in here. Somebody said, why do I call 504s trash? I don't think trash is a word that I use. I use a different word, junk. In 27, now it's 28 years in a couple months. Both have an identified disability, right? 504 IEP. If you knew just personally the people that I know, the people that my partners know that have been talked out of a 504 for 8, 9, 10 years, and their children are not going to be able to be functioning adults, you would know why I call it junk. So does a child have a disability, and is there a skill that I could teach him? Meaning, do they need specially designed instruction? And I can count on less than one hand all the thousands of kids that I've served in almost 3 decades that ever needed a 504. So I stand by that. It's used to stop children from getting special education and related services, which was never its intention. It's a Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It's not an educational act. It's a 504. It's a civil rights law. That's all it is. And it just means if you are an American and you are an individual in public school, that you can't be denied accommodations based on your disability. So I stand by what I said.
All right. Here's a scenario. It's the beginning of the school year, and I'm a general education teacher, and the intervention specialist does not want to disclose which students in our class have an IEP because she doesn't want me to change my perception of them. Is this allowed?
Now, ask me the question again. You threw me off there.
I'm sorry. So the intervention specialist does not want to tell the general education teacher which children in the classroom have an IEP because she doesn't want the teacher's perception to change of the children. Is that allowed?
Well, first of all, the general ed teacher already got the student's IEP and the student's 504 before the year started. So everybody that teaches a child should know that they're on a 504 or an IEP.
As a school nurse in a smaller rural district, I've wondered why shouldn't nurses be invited to the IEP and 504s? I mean, doesn't it just make sense? Shouldn't medical professional be there?
Doesn't it just make sense? So it makes sense if the student has an IHP, an individualized healthcare plan, if they are dispensed medicine at school, and if they have a medical need that needs to be talked about in the IEP or the 504s. Doesn't it just make sense as paperwork that we haven't distributed yet in America?
Okay, so my district has made a whole long procedure that takes months to get a one-on-one. It requires lots of data, lots of meetings. Is this process, does it sound correct to you?
So, I mean, it is the most restrictive, right? Having an adult with a child with a disability attached to each other is the most restrictive setting. You can't be more restricted than one-on-one, right? So if that happens, what we have to say as a committee, as a school, a campus, a district, or a county, is that we've exhausted every other option to support that child without that level.
Perfect. Can you share with me if I can get a 504 for my son who seems to just need additional time to be able to complete tests when reading is required.
Is that a question?
Yes.
So here's the deal, my love. Here's
I get a 504.
Yeah, you can get a 504. It's not my experience. It's not the experience of my partners that when we do proper testing, that you don't find that there's another need. So what skill have you taught a child that needs more time? Because that more time was taken from somewhere else, right? There's a reason that child needs more time. If we figured out the reason, then I could teach them a skill. Instead of just saying, everybody else goes to school for 7.5 hours, you need to do school for 8 hours and 15 minutes. Our job in special ed is one thing, to teach a child strategies to self-manage their disability. What we don't do in a 504 is teach a child strategy to self-manage their disability. We accommodate it. And when they leave, they don't have a skill set because we didn't provide them specially designed instruction.
Perfect. When you explain, can you explain the difference between a resource classroom and a learning center?
A learning center is where you're centered and you learn. Ba-dum-bum. Like, Panera Bread. So resource is under 300.115. It's under supplementary aids and services under IDEA. And it's usually for kiddos that are a few, maybe several years behind academically, that need a smaller setting, a slower pace, and we can work on targeted areas so that they are not required to do the depth and breadth of what general ed students are, but that we're understanding that they understand the content and concepts.
I am a resource teacher with small group sizes around 11 and 13. I have to do rotating groups and centers. As an advocate, would you ask for compensatory time because the children aren't receiving the full instructional time listed on the IEP?
If they're in resource and they're with their resource teacher, then that meets the criteria. They don't each get their own time. That's a good question. But no, I would not ask for compensatory time for that.
Finally, what are your thoughts on someone who stays in RTI for years?
You really want my thoughts? Do you want my thoughts? They're under here. Stop it. Stop it. What you've done is you've required the general ed teacher to special ed a student. It's wrong in every way. If a child needs ongoing help from RTI, they need to be tested to see if they need special education and or related services. Okay. It's just me talking to myself.
Yes, that is such a lovely voice. All right. Can parents deny their child with Down syndrome to be in resource and have them in gen ed all day?
So it's not about parents denying. Everything is a committee decision, and we make decisions based on 1 4-letter word. What is data? Data. 2 things you need to know. What does the law say, and what does the data show? And then that's the end of it, right? So I see schools sometimes that follow the whim of a parent. That's not right either. I mean, that's just not right. What if a parent didn't want a child to have medical care? Would you just go, okay? So an educational intervention sometimes is equal to medical care. And so we do what's right for a child based on their needs, their unique circumstances. Andrew F., March 22nd, 2017. And where's the most appropriate place to implement their IEP goals? So general ed is not the end-all be-all. A child being successful is.
All right. Can a dyslexia teacher put my child on a video every time they meet and consider that minutes served?
What? Why are they on a video? Your student handbook's very clear about videoing students. I mean, think about it. You have to sign off if your child's going to have their picture taken in the marching band. So, no.
All right. The teacher who is a target school in level 3 teacher in Iowa, they have to do SDI but don't have ISASP students.
I don't understand the question.
Can you put that acronym into the chat?
Mm-hmm.
We have some information around that one. Okay. Is it appropriate to have a goal for an SLD in reading for the student to eyes on speaker to learn to attend?
That is nothing. Eyes on speaker is ridiculous. There's lots of ways that people listen that may not be what you would consider full body listening. I can listen without ever looking at somebody, and there are kids that are staring at you that have no idea what you're saying. So that is a bunch of baloney sauce. But we don't have a goal for eyes on teacher. That's ridiculous. And it has nothing to do with an SLD. You looking at somebody doesn't change that you have a specific learning disability.
No. Okay. I have parent concerns. They canceled to play in a staff basketball game right when I arrived. Did they cancel your IEP meeting?
For a staff basketball game?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Okay. Do you know if Kentucky has a set amount of time students receive one-on-one with special education teachers?
There shouldn't be a set amount of time for any special education minutes for any student in America. It's based upon the student's unique circumstances. Andrew F., the LEA has a responsibility, a duty, and obligation to write an IEP to make the child able to make progress in light of their unique circumstances. You putting a time restraint on that would be a violation of IDEA.
What are your thoughts on virtual elementary school special education implementation?
No. I understand that there are some extenuating circumstances, and that might be for a moment or time period the only way that your child has access. But no. Oh, it says ISASP is Iowa State testing. So, do you know what that means again? So, something about the state testing. Do you know what I think about state testing? Yeah, in all states.
I keep being told my child does not need an IEP, but maybe a 504, but she's more than a year behind.
Okay. And what is so this is what I would say. You can flip the script. So, it sounds like, write this down. This would be the best thing you ever hear today. It sounds like you have a reason for saying that. Write that down. It sounds like you have a reason for saying that. And then close your mouth and let them respond. Because they've already figured out what your kid needs. So it sounds like you have a reason for saying that. And then let them speak.
All right. If the child has no behaviors, is school allowed to transfer the student to a behavioral school?
What? If they have no behaviors, they wouldn't meet eligibility for that setting. You have to meet criteria for special ed settings.
And then, does school have to provide therapy for executive functioning issues with a child with autism?
No. Executive functioning therapy is not a related service under IDEA.
All right. Can the SPED director say they do not have the staff to keep a student in inclusion, so they need to change placement?
I would hope the SPED director doesn't say anything that goofy. So you do not need to discuss your staffing victories or challenges with the parents. It's none of their business, nor can they do anything about that. So IDEA does not provide a waiver, an exemption for teacher shortages, teacher abundance, lack of teachers. We've had a lack of special ed teachers since December 2nd, 1978. So we certainly understand the shortage in special educators. There's always been a shortage of special educators.
Is it possible for me to become an advocate and have my district pay for it?
We have districts pay for the 2-day training all the time. You can ask Alicia, which I think is great because they don't always have time to train their staff members. But absolutely, we've had We do POs for school-based members if the district's paying for it, for sure.
Does a parent need to be in the IEP meeting if she's the person spending those time with the child?
No. Do they need to be? Need is a unique word, right? The requirements are 5 stakeholders. A pair is not one of them.
Okay, and then we've got a lot of teachers asking again how they get that 1 month free.
The top secret code is email, because I don't even know what the code is, because if they told me, then I would just blurt it out and I'd be in trouble with Alicia. So you just email advocate@specialeducationacademy.com, advocate@specialeducationacademy.com, and Alicia will get you that code.
All right, is it possible for the gen ed teacher to sub for the special education teacher?
Well, you can't sub for something you're not qualified for. So there's that.
There's that. All right, and then Jenny from the block.
Is it really Jenny from the block?
It is Jenny from the block.
Hi, Jenny.
So glad you're doing this content, minor ground, but I love this for all the parents who are still in it.
Yeah, thank you.
Amen for that. All right, co-teaching, self-contained, or resource. Thoughts or reasons behind one placement or the other?
I mean, they're all totally different things, right? What does the student need to make progress, right? Co-teach, it means that you have a general ed teacher and a special education teacher teaching in tandem for the entire block. In-class support means that you have a second adult, hopefully they're an adult, in the classroom providing support minutes to students that have a disability. An IEP resource is a separate setting with no non-disabled peers so that students can work on more targeted areas without the depth and breadth of the entire curriculum.
All right, and then for a student with a 504, is the school required to track the use of accommodations?
They are required to measure and monitor the 504 document, and that is by tracking accommodations. If you don't believe me, you can reach out to the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. When we file a complaint, or when any of our partners file a complaint and we allege that accommodations were not delivered, the letter from OCR to the school says, please provide us the way that you tracked accommodations. You have to track accommodations. That way you know that they're what? Effective, right? So, yeah.
How long do dyslexia services last? Should the child finish the curriculum?
So dyslexia, if the student is in fact dyslexic, we'll say at most beginning of any of those curriculum that you buy, that it's a game changer. Like it literally is like turning the lights on. I have a lot of children that are in dyslexia services who don't have dyslexia, but they do struggle with reading. It could be a year, it could be a year and a half. You shouldn't have kids in dyslexia for 5, 6, 7 years. Once you've completed those books, those modules, then you go on maintenance, but you never graduate from having a need for dyslexia.
Okay, perfect. What's the best way to ask for progress reports? Because I haven't received any of them at all this year.
Would you please email me your progress reports? I can't locate mine. Thank you.
Right,
Muffin at the end.
Muffin. Definitely add the muffin.
Add muffin.
If you call an IEP meeting outside of the annual meeting to do for most of the goals, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Let me start that again. That's kind of. If you call an IEP meeting outside of the annual meeting, do all of the goal dates need to be reset?
No, I mean, you can call an IEP meeting for any time that you want to address something that's in the IEP. You could have an IEP meeting and not change any of the goals. If you want to make a new goal or change and adjust the criteria, then that goal, if agreed upon by the committee, would have that start date with the end being at the end of the annual IEP period.
Okay, perfect. What would be the best way, as an educator, what would be the best way to try and get parents to have the full cognitive and academic testing that needs to take place.
So that's not usually a problem that we have. The problem that we have is getting the school to do the testing. And that's solely the school's discretion, right? The school decides the instruments. The school decides the depth and breadth. School should be doing all 7 Gs. So if you're asking for parents to give you consent, you have to have consent to do cognitive and formal achievement testing. But certainly once they give you that permission for cognition, you can do all 7 Gs.
Okay, perfect. If you call it, I'm sorry, if another IEP member is seeing discrimination and bullying from a general education teacher, should the team report this?
I would hope adults do what's ethical. As an advocate, if something is reported to me by a parent, by a client, by anybody, I have an obligation as a mediator for the family courts, as an adult, as an advocate, to report that, and I will. So I know that that's sometimes a challenge for other adults to do that for a number of reasons, but it's an obligation that you would report that for sure.
I'm asking a question for the mom of one of my students. Her son is 17 years old, a special education student. He got into some trouble last week, big time trouble, and a local magazine posted about his arrest and his record and a funny story to go with it. The mom is not okay. Is this a violation of his special education rights?
To post that he got in trouble outside of school? I'm not an attorney. I don't know the specificity of what he posted. I don't know if it's slander. I don't know if, I don't know the totality of it. It's probably not good manners.
All right, can you explain the 10 types of the 10 communicative intents?
Oh my gosh. Yes, let me just rattle those off. Ready? Number 1. No, I do not have them off the top of my head, but you can go to assistiveware.com, assistiveware.com, and they will provide them for you. That was good, though. Christina, can you name the 10 types of communicative intent? It did take me a long time to learn the word communicative. So it's very impressive when you're at a meeting.
Okay, what about Grammarly and using it in school? They now said no due to AI.
What do you mean? We were using Grammarly before. It was called word prediction. So I use Grammarly every day and argue with Grammarly, and I pay to argue with it. So that's goofiness. Just regular goofiness.
It's garden variety goofiness.
Garden variety.
Yes. Okay. What do I do if my student is coming home saying that no one is helping them during inclusion time?
So I would reach out to the principal and say, I'm concerned that my student may not be delivered the totality of a special education minutes. Is that something that you can check on for me? And then let them do whatever they're going to do. And based upon that response, you might need to call an IEP meeting. But you have to deliver FAPE. It's a requirement.
ECFE student coming home with soiled undergarments every day. School said it's not their job.
Oh, my goodness. So, I wish I hadn't ever heard that before, but I've heard that a million times. So, if the student doesn't have ability and have the cognition or the skills yet to take care of all of their personal hygiene needs, and of course the school-based members are going to help them, whether they're 3 or 22. So I would reach out to the principal and say, is there a way that we can increase my child's hygiene schedule so that he comes home not soiled?
Yes. All right. I have a incoming, or they're in their last year of junior high, so incoming freshman, and was told we need to start. What was the word they used? Transitioning to a 504.
Oh, what? Oh, I thought you were saying like they should transition to us. Really? based upon, again, I would say it seems like you have a reason for saying that. And then close your pretty little mouth and let them respond while you're recording on otter.ai. So.
Okay, what do we do if they want to reduce minutes, but there's no data to back it up?
Say I would certainly be in agreement with that. Just show me the data that supports that recommendation. Show me the data that supports that recommendation. That's it. Yes, otter.ai is the recording software that I use. I use it all the time. Listen, you can assume if you are on the planet, somebody is recording you. So I love otter.ai.
What do you do as a teacher with a student who cusses daily and I get no support from admin or the parents?
So if it's not a characteristic of a disability, and even if it is, I'm going to ask for support. Again, does the student's behavior impact his learning and the learning of others? So that's a consideration for LRE that might support that this classroom's not the right setting for him.
Would Tier 1 reading services be considered a type of RTI?
Possibly. And this is how I usually do it. This is just a Karenism. Tier 1 is RTI, Tier 2 is 504, Tier 3 is special ed. But that's just a me issue. So it depends on who's delivering Tier 1, 2, and 3. I've had Tier 3 that I'm like, yeah, that's it. So it depends on who's delivering it.
Is it possible to have more than one eligibility on an IEP?
You can have 75 eligibilities. So there's no state statute that says you can only have one eligibility. That is a lie that's been told to you at a meeting. So certainly we list their eligibilities so that we can provide them what? Specially designed instruction and supports based on that eligibility.
How many meetings should I expect to have each year for IEPs?
I mean, I have 500 clients that I serve a year. Some of them literally have one IEP meeting a year. We get in there, get it done, and roll out. Sometimes if it's a new client, we might have 5 or 6 IEP meetings. Sometimes if it's a client I've had for a little bit, we might have more meetings because they're transitioning. You just can't, I mean, it just depends. If they have behaviors that start to present, if they have a manifestation determination, you can't just really pin it down to, you get one meeting and that's it. So.
Is there a particular way that you would monitor or track goals or accommodations?
Is there a particular way that I would? Well, I'm not an educator. God bless educators. But I would have a system in place to know if what we're measuring is it mitigating the impact of the disability, right? If we're doing the skill, if we're acquiring the skill, if we're working on something, are we finding gains, right? That's the whole point. Is the acuity of that need less once I've delivered specially designed instruction? If it's not, then we need to switch.
All right, and then when a district makes a student wait to enroll because they don't have a SPED opening, is that okay?
Is that an Allen ISD? Oh, I'm sorry. No, we don't. There's. This is not like a fancy restaurant in New York. Everybody gets in. Ugh. Can you believe it, Christina? Ugh.
I know. Well, they all get in
except for, unless they say, we're not ready for him. We're not ready for him. No, I didn't know that.
All right. If a student is using a communication device, should they have that with them all day?
I don't know. Do you have your voice with you all day? Do you have your voice with you all day? Communication device is their voice. It's a very simple question. Are kids allowed to communicate during the instructional day? Is there parts of the day that they're not allowed to communicate? And if they're not, probably be looking for a different school. Yes.
All right, and then what is the purpose of testing in all G's in the cognitive assessment?
That's a fantastic question because they identify different areas of brain skills. Your G's are your brain skills, right? So usually when we're doing 5 G's, we're missing long-term memory, which encompasses long-term storage and long-term retrieval, and we're missing auditory processing. To not do them may not identify an area of need. So when you go into the doctor's office, you say, just test for high blood pressure. Do not test for cholesterol. I'm serious. No, you want them to do a full panel so we can see what's going on. So testing does one of two things, right? It identifies or eliminates. But if you don't test in that area, you could neither identify nor eliminate.
Hey, boss.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, sorry, Jude's having a rough night.
Oh,
But
sorry.
Here, some people are wanting to know how to join the academy.
Yes, if you want to join the academy, tell them how to do that, Alicia.
So what you're going to do is you're going to go to www.specialeducationacademy.com. You're going to go to the training tab. You're going to go down until you see the academy. Click on that. You're going to fill in all of your information, and there's going to be 3 little blue words that says, has a coupon. You're going to click on that in a drop box right underneath the password. You're going to type in all caps TikTok Live. It's capital T as in Timothy, I as in Indigo, K as in Karen, T as in Timothy, O as in Oliver, K as in Karen, L as in Levi, I as in Indigo, V as in Victory, and E as in Elephant. All caps TikTok Lives.
Fantastic. I'm so glad I don't have to say T as in Timothy, I as in interpreter. Like, I'm not gonna get it.
And then, if you are a school-based member, you're not going to put that code in. You're going to email advocate@specialeducationacademy.com. And we have a special code for you guys.
Special.
I can't tell you. It's a secret.
She hasn't even told me. But I promise you.
Last live that we can't put .com in the chat. So it's advocate@specialeducationacademy. Fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
All right, boss. You got to jump over. Academy time.
Yes. Are we not going to do the emoji thing, Alicia?
No, it's time. It's over. Sorry, you missed it.
We
You
did?
had 3 minutes. It's yes. You got to get to the academy.
There's no emojis.
Listen,
Where?
I can't help them. They should be emojiing without me having to tell them.
Oh my god.
All right, in the amount of time we've argued about emojis, we could have emojied. So let's call for a 60-second rapid fire.
You got a question, you better add a lot of emojis.
Oh, there's emojis. They're coming. Yay!
Can an advocate attend my IEP meeting?
You can bring your priest, a Pop-Tart, somebody that gave you piano lessons. You can bring anybody that you want to bring, just like the school can bring anybody they want to bring. And how you get an advocate is you would email us at advocate@specialeducationacademy.com.
Correct.
Oh, I got a crown. Thank you. And hearts and roses. That's fantastic. And check marks. Okay.
All right.
All right. Listen, if you guys need something, let us know.
Hold on. Last one. You ready?
Okay.
She had a lot of emojis. How long does the school have to offer a new plan?
A new plan?
Yeah.
So they should be proposing a provision of services at every IEP meeting. They should be proposing a provision of services. Thanks, you guys, for all the love and the hearts and the gifts and all the things. Remember, we get it right for the child. We get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training.